And let's see if it works. Okay, I'm late again, but first of all, let me make sure this is even working.
Late.
Waiting. What's up? I don't even think this is working.
You're live now.
Oh, it says I'm live. Okay, the chicken freaking lying piece of shit. Fucking.
Yep, I'm looking at your screen right now, my man.
Yeah, and then meanwhile, this freaking thing is just telling me I'm still offline. So, I mean, now it's telling me I'm live, but it's also telling me I'm offline. So, yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much for lying to me, YouTube. Our abusive relationship continues to go on the course that it always has been. Anyway, hey guys, what's up? For those of you tuning in, yes, I am late again. Though the funny thing is, I was actually preparing to be early this time. Like, I was like here half an hour earlier, setting up Open Broadcaster, and I had everything going 10 minutes before 6. And I'm like, yep. And then it turned out that there was extra stuff that I needed to do and set up. And then my guests needed to get their food ready, which, by the way, I got my own here. And, yeah, so it ended up being all that other stuff. But, yeah, we're here now. It's working. We're going to do at least an hour of the usual BS that I do. So, yeah, if you're watching this right now, welcome. If you're planning on watching this later on after it's already recorded, well, hope you enjoy it. So,
yeah,
you guys already know who I am, but this time I actually have a guest. She's a friend of mine from quite a ways back, she's starting to get her own channel started, and not only that, but we talk martial arts stuff and other stuff all the time. So I figured we had time to kill this afternoon. Why not just throw her on so I could actually have somebody to, bounce ideas off of as I'm talking about the usual shit before you guys then throw in the usual Q&A. So I would like to welcome Danny to my live stream. Say hello.
Thank you for having me. I've been looking forward to this for the whole damn week, more or less.
Cool.
So thank you.
Yeah. So I thought I was gonna have a proper topic prepared, and I do. But it's going to be kind of rambly. Basically, I'm going to kind of continue off of what I was saying before with my video about how this MMA guy is going around challenging Chinese martial arts and what it could mean for Chinese martial arts. So I want to kind of continue on that, just in a more of a kind of speculative sort of discussion, like, what if, or where could we be going, and how it, differs from the past, things like that. But first, I wanted to kind of like ease into things and just talk about different stuff first before I then jump into that. And of course, there'll be the Q&A at the end. Don't worry, guys. Because I know that's what you guys really like doing. But I wanted to talk about this week. And as some of you guys already know, and if you're already watching the streams, I'm pretty sure you know, because when I advertised it, I talked about it. I didn't have a video this week. The reason why I didn't have a video this week was partially because, I was busy, but also because I kind of effed up my ability to make videos by destroying my monitor. Now, thankfully, I got a new one. It's in front of me right now. This is how I'm able to see stuff. But,
Didn't you say you, stabbed your original monitor or something like that?
Yeah. This is it right here. I don't know if you guys can see it, but, if you look very carefully, and I think the light's reflecting on it, if you look right here, if you look right there, you can see it. See? So I didn't mean to destroy it. See, what had happened was, see, this would have been working it. It's when you first get a knife, and, you're trying to, do the whole open thing, many times when you get especially a good one, you gotta constantly keep playing it, so it can open up a little bit easier. And this one's still a bit stiff. There's still a lot of resistance here. So I was constantly click, and I better watch it because I don't want to do a repeat of what happened this week. But I was just doing that and closing it and doing that and closing it. And at one point, it wasn't opening. I'm just like, mother. So I throw an extra bit of wrist flick to try to get it open. And it worked, but I also, for some strange reason, it just slipped out of my hand and just thunk. Yeah, instant fuck up on my screen. One half of the screen looked like freaking it was just a mess. And I just see the other half, still see in the background. And I couldn't even get mad. It was just more like, oh God. Like, I actually even chuckled at it because it's like, what else can I do? This is my own freaking fault. And it is funny. But suddenly I didn't have a monitor to work with. So, I mean, thankfully I had a little bit of money saved. And plus I figured I would just look for, refurbished refurbished screen. I keep saying laptop. I know why I keep saying laptop, but it's... Because when I look for laptops and stuff, I sometimes look refurbished, and believe it or not, you can actually get good deals that way, and no, they're not pieces of crap. This thing, before I wrecked it, I bought this back in 2014, and it worked all the way up until I decided to sentence it to death with a folding knife. So, yeah, they work fine, and this particular one, it's not refurbished, but it is kind of like new used, like somebody opened the box and then didn't use it, and because of that, I got it at a discounted price. Plus, I got it at an extra discounted price for reasons. So, I was able to get it replaced yesterday. Showed up on my front door and able to use it now. But yeah, I guess the lesson of the day here is be careful working on folding knives in front of your monitors, because you'll end up with this. So yeah, just don't do that.
Number one rule I keep telling my customers, I work at a computer shop. Don't do things around your computer that could lead to it being destroyed. I mean, it's kind of a do as I say, not as I do thing as I sit here drinking and eating at my computer. But yeah, no, don't. Please, God, no, don't. No, just no. God.
Yeah, I learned that. I've had to relearn that lesson over and over again. Like, no matter how careful I try to be, I find myself doing stupid things. Like, okay, you guys already know that I have a Razer keyboard. I have a, what do you call those things? They're not the Death Adders. The Adders are the mouse. It's the Black Widows. I had a 2014 model Black Widow, and I still have it. It's actually sitting right over there, but I replaced it with this one. Because the other one, it's a mechanical keyboard, as you guys already know, and one thing that you don't do with mechanical keyboards is drop liquids on them. My mechanical keyboard has tasted a lot of liquids. It drank a lot. Now, I will say this, though, it's proven to me just how good Razer products really can be, because as soon as I would see liquid go on, I'd instantly, rush to the back of my tower, pull the sucker out, drain it, dry it, clean it, whatever, and then the next day, pop it back on. Works just fine. Works just fine. But the last time it happened, I'm cleaning it out, and I'm like, man, these keys are getting sticky, and this one key is getting kind of rubbed out. Screw it, I'm just buying another one. And even though I cleaned up the old one, I just have the old one sitting there, I guess, for backup. And this new one I picked up for $52.
That's not bad at all. Holy shit.
$52 for, one of these Razer thingies here. And it works great. It's another refurbished one. Works just fine. Been working with this since January?
That's a nice keyboard for it. Was it on sale, or did you just get really lucky, or what?
It was like,
$52.
I got it for $52. It was refurbished, plus they just had a stock of them. I forgot what website I got them on, but they were just selling a bunch of old... Plus, it's an older model. Like, everyone's moving over to the chroma key ones where, you can change the colors and all that. And this is just straight up green backgrounds, which, just straight up green keys, which is the way I like it. To be honest, I always had my mouse and keyboard and all that type of stuff. I've always just had it black and green. It's always been a motif I've worked with. So I didn't care about getting the whole, RGB change in color thing, which right there lowers the price, and you get the hint. It's just like I just go for the options that aren't going to charge me a whole lot of money. Anyway, I'm not even on the topic that people are here for. I'm just talking about the week and stuff. Though there's two more things I want to jump on before I went to the main topic. One is on sword stuff, and there's an idea that I have for a video, but I need to do research on it. And I'm doing the ongoing research right now, but I'm also kind of reaching out to my audience right now on a little bit of extra info, and that basically is on the general dimensions that we usually see for a den. Because unlike, I mean, okay, I shouldn't say unlike, because Western swords, you see the same thing. There's so many variations. Many times when people think of a gen, they think of, you know, the average, you know, crappy spring steel models that you can pick up off the wall for like $60, $35, whatever. You know, the ones that are based off of like late Qing designs, Qing Dynasty designs. But the thing is, there were so many different, you know, the lengths, thicknesses, handguard shapes, you know, one-handed, two-handed, different weights. So I'm trying to find like a general, I'm trying to find general measurements for specific uses. Like I know everyone says that basically the average length was 28 inches for the blade, but I've seen variations where they were longer or shorter than that, consistently. And I know that there's different handguards for particular dynasties. So I'm trying to see if I can group up certain measurements and configurations with certain usages. Like, okay, for this style or like this particular era, or like this was the battlefield version, they tended to make them like this, or this is the civilians version, they tend to make them like this. And I'm trying to get as much information off of that as I can. But considering, you know, how spread around and how little talked about this stuff tends to be, it's taking me a while. So any extra information that you guys might be able to have, I'd really appreciate it, so I can put that all together, throw it out in the video, and then make the rest of y'all happy.
So that isn't something that like would be made specifically for the user. So if you had like a super short dude or a super tall dude or whatever, that it would change in length or whatever. That would be more just, it was made for like, this is the thing that civilians had, this is the thing that was the battlefield version, blah 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 blah, or what? Or is it like a both situation?
It kind of, I would say, is more of a both situation. Like, generally back in those days, especially if you had the money, a lot of the swords were made to order. But also when you're dealing with, like, say, arming a group of people, then you're not going to be going made to order for every single last person in your army or militia or whatever. So you
right, if you got 300 people, you can't just like go, okay, let's get you fitted and let's get you fitted and no.
Exactly.
You churn them out as fast as you can and churn out spares because some idiot's going to inevitably break theirs doing something stupid.
Pretty much, yeah. So yeah, that tends to be what you usually see. When you deal with the upper class type people or the people with the money, then you see more made to order stuff. And many times those swords tend to be preserved because many times that particular person isn't going to war with those weapons. So of course they get preserved. Whereas when you just like, okay, here, average scrub, here, grab this. Average peasant, here, grab this. You tend to see a lot of those, and we tend to have a lot of those preserved also, but they tend to be in much worse condition because they were used, or, you know, they weren't as well taken care of because they were seen as tools, not heirlooms. So that's another reason why getting all this information together is not exactly easy, but that's what I'm trying to do, so I can like put out a video that you guys would actually consider to be worth it. Okay, and the last thing before I get to the main topic is just a little quirk I've seen, and please, if I piss anybody off, I'm sorry. This is just something I've been noticing, and it's been kind of racking my brains. I'm just like, what the hell is going on? Okay, so that last Jedi movie, which came out in December last year, there was a whole lot of hatred for that freaking thing. And I kind of understand why, but at the same time, like, there's some elements of it I can understand why, and there's other elements that makes me go, like, what crack are you smoking? But I don't want to get into that. The main thing is, like, I'm going to say I liked the movie. I didn't think it was perfect. Like, I thought that the scene where they went on that rich pleasure planet, you know, like the one with the casino and stuff, I thought that went on way too long. But other than that, I actually liked the direction the film was going into, and I liked some of the stuff that they were trying to say in terms of, you know, if I'm going to talk about that, I need to do a whole separate video. The point is, there was a whole lot of hatred for the video, and you know the score on Rotten Tomatoes, and everyone's saying it sucked and that it ruined Star Wars and whatever. So I'm thinking, okay, this is going to be like another Diablo 3 situation. And what I mean by that is, like, it's a Star Wars movie, so of course everybody's going to go check it out, right? Just like when Diablo 3 came out, well, it's Diablo. Diablo 2 was awesome, so everyone's going to go and buy the game. What's going to prove whether or not the movie was really good and whether people really liked it is what happens afterwards. So I figured, okay, yeah, everyone's going to go to the theater. It's going to make $1 bazillion. Who cares? What's really going to tell whether this movie really sucks or not, like if most people think it sucks, are the DVD sales. That's what's going to let us know. Like, if, you know, it doesn't matter what it did in the theater. If when the DVD sales come out, it ends up doing like a fraction of what it, you know, sold, you know, in the theater, like not as many people are buying it, then we know, yeah, people were pissed. You know, you might want to change direction. So the DVD came out a while ago. It sounded like crazy, guys. Like on Amazon, it's one of their best sellers. I remember checking, you know, the sales figures a little while ago because I was kind of, you know, curious, and they're making their money. So I don't know what else to say. Like, it's just like, this is not me like gloating because I don't have a horse in this race. To me, it's just a freaking movie. Like, I like some Star Wars movies, and I dislike other Star Wars movies. I didn't really like the prequels, except for the last one, and that one was kind of mediocre. Attack of the Clones bored the shit out of me, and Phantom Menace, while it had its moments, was definitely a disappointment. So it's not like I got a, you know, I like some movies and I dislike other ones, and I don't really have a horse in the race whether or not it does well or not. Like, I'm not going to get any extra money if it does well, and if it sucks, I got no problem saying so. But it just seems to me like, I don't know what it is. It's like this strange freaking movement that is just desperately trying to convince everybody that the movie sucks. If you don't like it, you don't like it. I mean, if other people like it, you're just gonna have to deal with it. Like, I hate the Transformers movies. I freaking can't. I'm like, with a burning passion, I can't stand these freaking things. Don't ever ask me and then expect to leave in the next 15 minutes. I'm gonna keep you trapped against the wall for an hour and a half while I rant about why all of them suck. But they sell like crazy. You know, like, yeah. They did great in the theater, in the box office. The DVDs sell like mad. So that's just something I'm going to have to live with. And that is something I got no problem living with, because not everyone's going to like what I like and vice versa. You know what I mean? Like, I really don't care. It's just a movie. If I go to a theater, I want to be entertained. I mean, if you have a decent message in there, fine. But yeah.
In the end, taste is taste is taste. And I find a lot of the people who decide to have a giant angry fit about things are going to have a giant angry fit about anything that they don't like because it's not specifically catering to them. I mean, God, there are people throwing the biggest fit possible because the new Thundercats cartoon is more catering to kids and not catering to the old fans who are in like their 30s and 40s and whatnot now. Like, your time has passed. They're making cartoons for you, but this isn't one of them. Why are you getting mad about something that's aimed at the 10 to 14-year-old market?
Like it used to be.
You are more than 10 to 14 years past the 10 to 14-year-old market. Why are you mad?
I don't know. It's you know, this goes with all circles of life. I want to get on to the main topic because otherwise people are going to be liking this. But I don't know. It just seems like there are people who just want to get mad just to get mad, and I see this with just about. It's not just one group, it's so many freaking groups, which is why I'm alone. But anyway, main topic, to get back to the whole MMA thing. The MMA Chinese thing, because I still think that's kind of shaking certain people up. And it's funny how I've noticed after I put that video out, there were a couple of people who, I'm not going to say they took offense, because they didn't, but there was like one or two people that were kind of like, we can't they were kind of like having the opinion of we can't necessarily take this at face value. You know what happened in those videos, particularly the last one, the guy, you know, the dude going against the Wing Chun dude. And I noticed even some articles on like certain martial arts websites that I check out that also were kind of having a sort of flippant attitude towards what happened. And to be fair, I kind of understand why. Especially since the last one, and to be perfectly honest, all these MMA versus traditional things, they're kind of being done sort of as like publicity stunts, sort of. I mean, this is not taking away from what happened, because what happened is what happened. Like, these guys just couldn't defend themselves. But the way these things were staged, it looks sort of like a publicity stunt. And this latest one definitely had that kind of flamboyant air to it. And this is not me knocking, I'm just saying it as it is. It had a kind of flamboyant air because, to be honest, it is something of a headliner. You know, the modern upstart taking on the established so-called, you know, the powers that be. Like, you know, traditional Chinese martial arts has long been held to be, like, supposedly here. I say supposedly because, well, I'm going to get into that. And then all of a sudden here comes MMA, and it's like, you know, just... it's like that one big dude just mushing everybody around. Like, fuck you, get out my way. And if you're gonna be showing yet another example of, you know, an upstart just taking someone else down a peg that supposedly was already on top, that's gonna cause headlines. It's gonna be sensationalistic. It's kind of hard to get away from that. And I guess there also is going to be the question of whether or not this guy is picking people that he knows are going to lose. Like, he's not necessarily going out against people who have a reputation for being established fighters. He's more like going out against people who just are representing a particular style. Just to say that, okay, I've beaten that particular style. We don't know. I don't know. And I mean, I guess there's a way to find out. But to be perfectly honest, at least for the sake of this discussion that I'm about to have now, it's irrelevant. What's relevant is what's being perceived right now. Like, right now, it's not a good look for the average traditional martial artist to see a dude just going over and knocking people out who represent different styles. We can, you know, talk back and forth about whether or not this guy really knew, you know, the traditional martial artists, whether they deserve the title of expert or not, or master or whatever. We can talk about whether or not, you know, they were properly trained to fight, whether they were sucker punch, whether the guy's selecting people. But the point is, at the end of the day, they still were they were willing to take the challenge and represent their style, and they lost. And that's not a good look for the style. An average, you know, the average, you know, I should say the average person, a mature martial artist, of course, is going to be looking at things and you know, ultimately it's the person, not the style. You hear that a lot. We've all heard it. If you're into martial arts, you've heard that. It's not the style, you know, it's the person, not the style. But it still doesn't stop discussions about whether one style sucks compared to another. And we've all heard it, and we've all engaged in these sort of conversations. Taekwondo is a good example. How many people were saying Taekwondo sucked? Constantly. It's something that I've heard a lot growing up. You know, even as a teenager, I remember people saying Taekwondo sucks. Too many flashy kicks, no practical usage. Time and time again, all the way into my adulthood, I kept hearing the same thing. And then when MMA came out, people really started saying that, like, you know, in the ring, the only kicks that are worth using are Muay Thai kicks. That's it. Every other style's kick sucks. And now you got Taekwondo guys going in there knocking motherfuckers out.
Right. I mean, and honestly, outside of certain exceptions, there are certain exceptions, most every style has some kind of merit. And I mean, look, I get bored and I watch knockout compilations because that's the type of person I am. And a compilation I was watching today, and I'm warning you ahead of time, I'm going to butcher the shit out of the pronunciation of this. The Brazilian, or not Brazilian, the martial art capoeira. Capoeira. There you go. I saw kicks that were very, very distinctly from that in that compilation, and they were hitting people's off button hard. I mean, one of them, guy spins around, misses once, the second kick connects right on the chin.
Oh, I think I know which one you're talking about, the double spin?
Yeah, that double spin. He spins around, and there's this audible smack you can hear over the crowd, and the guy just hits the mat. He's just gone. No putting his arms out to stop himself, nothing. He got full-on off switch.
I saw that knockout.
Certain exceptions that are based purely on chicanery and bullshit. Most every style has something that is going to have merit. And well, as you said, the Taekwondo guys start showing up and they start putting people down hard. It does depend on the person, not the style. As you said, and I mean, yeah, if the guy is going after fake masters, yeah, I definitely get that. If someone is purporting themselves to be a master and they got that by paying a couple $1,000s to some random governing body, then yeah, they need to be taken down a peg because they're purporting themselves to be something they're not. But it almost seems like if he's not going after fake masters and he's just setting out to like put people down, it seems like a codification of the whole "my style is better than your style" thing, and it just sits weirdly with me.
I agree. By the way, thank you, Patrick Gray, for putting in the thing about how he was after the fake masters. And I mean, if that's what he's doing, then I guess he's doing us a service. But even if he wasn't, I still consider it something of a service because, as other people have pointed out, especially right now, sorry if I messed up your name. No, wait, never mind. I see what it is now. Shit meme dank post. I thought it was a Japanese name at first. Yeah, a lot of people who take up traditional martial arts don't know how to fight. Which, I'm going to say something that's going to might be controversial to you guys. That's okay. This is even making my brain rebel. Okay. Let me clear that up. A lot of people just do not have the time to become the fighters that you tend to that you're supposed to be if you take up martial arts. And the reason that is because we're not living in a time period where you needed these in order to survive. Nowadays, you want to be able to defend yourself, the easiest way is to pick up a 45 and learn how to shoot with a freaking thing. Well, okay, I like 45s. Most people these days prefer 9mm for ease of use.
I almost started the 9mm versus 45 debate, but this is where I shout the word shot placement and have a giant flashing neon sign that says shot placement in the argument because it's a pointless argument.
Yeah.
But you almost got me. You were yay close. So close to starting that. But anyway, yeah. You're right. Outside of situations where you simply cannot have a gun at all. If you want to defend yourself in this day and age, you either get real good at running and finding, some sort of person who can help you, a cop or whatever, or you get a gun and you be willing to use said gun. That's the long and short of it in this day and age. So yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I mean, I personally think it's a good idea to learn hand-hand. I mean, if I was ruling the world, no, if I was running things, I would actually make it, similar to how, well, I don't know if it's true, but some places like basic martial arts training is something that kids grow up with. Just like here in the West, you had gym class. Well, I would make it so that part of that gym class was basic self-defense. At least wrestling, for God's sake. So some type of judo, something so that you know how to defend yourself, But the fact of the matter is, not everybody who's taking up martial arts is either willing or able to put in the time that's going to make them proper fighters. To say nothing of the mindset that you need to have and the awareness you need to have in order to make these skills viable. I mean, it's an awareness that to other people seems superhuman. I swear I spoke English just now. To others it seems superhuman, but it really just comes about from a lot of constant training, intense training. A lot of people just don't have time for that. And even some teachers don't have time for that. They only had enough time to remember the curriculum. There are a lot of teachers or instructors these days who they're pretty much just lineage holders and not much more than that. Like, they learned the art they learned the encyclopedia of the art. Like, they learned, the movements, they learned the forms, they learned how you're supposed to train. But actually going out there and knocking somebody out with it, they've not really been trained to do that. But they are at least qualified to pass it down to somebody else who may have the time to do it.
Right, so, that actually that ties into what Psionic Blade asked in the chat, how to tell if a master's fake or not. And some people are good teachers, and not good fighters, and vice versa. I've actually run into that in a couple of cases, and not just with martial arts. Someone who was not good at the thing that they were teaching in the sense of actually going out and doing it, but they knew it. Yeah. I almost look at you have quarterbacks in the NFL who know the game of football like they know themselves, and they can be an on-field coach. And then there are people like, say, John Madden or Tom Landry or whoever, who are these amazing coaches, and they would have no business on the gridiron because they would get destroyed. So that there is a question, what makes a master fake? I mean, if they can teach other people to do it well enough that they can go out and use it, or at the very least know the art, yes, I would consider that a level of mastery. But I would also consider being able to go out and use it a level of mastery. Some people are great at something and they're they're shit teachers. I mean, Lord knows I ran into enough of them in high school. They knew their thing, but they couldn't teach their way out of a wet paper bag.
I'm gonna make a controversial statement and put Bruce Lee on that list. There's a video for another time. I'm not gonna say he was a shit teacher, but I don't think he was. He was definitely a damn good martial artist, but I don't think he was. So I have to be careful. If I say he wasn't a good teacher, I'm making it sound like he was a horrible teacher. No, he wasn't a horrible teacher. He could pass on the subject, but I don't think teaching was his forte.
He was midland tier. He was more of a doer, and the stories I've read about how he would interact with people, he was kind of acerbic. I mean, he wanted people to improve, yeah, but from what I've read, he was kind of acerbic, and some people do not learn well in that type of environment. Some people grow and flourish under it, but a lot of people, if you're an asshole to them, that shuts the whole system. That shuts the whole show down, and they're done. They have no interest in learning from you, and that may kill their interest in what they were being taught in the first place.
Yeah, I agree with that. As far as what would make them okay, if you're gonna be, I think that we're gonna have to, like, again, I've suggested this before. Martial arts these days have to be looked at different levels, and I'm not just simply talking about black belt level, blue belt level. No, levels in terms of what you can do with it and what your intentions are with it. Some people, they get into martial arts because they just want to be damn good fighters. That's one level. That's one sphere. That's one arena. That's one paradigm. You're going to train for that. You're going to be really good at that. That's your focus. You got others who want to be, like I said, lineage holders. They're interested in the art. They're interested in the tradition of it. Those tend to be the guys who are a little bit more conservative, and they might be the ones who are the most under the crosshairs when it comes to improving martial arts. Because if you're somebody who's trying to hold on to tradition, like, well, this is the way it has been done, these are the moves that have been preserved over the many, many years, so I have to preserve the art by preserving these techniques. Well, if that's your focus, then improving it is not exactly what's going to be on your mind. You're just trying to keep it the way it always has been, as an art form, as a cultural treasure to hold on to. So it's sort of like sword making. We have modern steels and modern ways to make swords that are way more efficient than the way they were made in the past. And yet you will still find people going apeshit over a traditionally made Japanese katana, because of the culture that, the cultural art around how it's made. It's a refined art, and it's being done in a particular way that many people appreciate the end product of. And the almost ritualistic way it's done, many people feel that's worth preserving. Is there a better way to make swords? Yeah. But if you do that, then you're not holding on to that tradition, which some people consider worth holding on to. We're seeing
your mic's echoing, Sage.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's echoing in YouTube.
I do not know why. Could be. All right. If I pause my video, because I don't even hear my video. Do you hear it echoing now? Is it echoing now?
I'm on a bit of a time delay, so.
Okay.
I'm just barely heard. Yeah, I'm still getting the echoing, yeah.
I don't know where it's coming from, because I only have one source recording. And I'm not exactly sure why it would be echoing like that. Let me see something real quick. Let me see if I can try to fix that. I'm going to cut this down, and let me see if that fixes things. I just made an adjustment. I don't know how well that's going to work. But you guys let me know in a moment, like, if it still echoes. And hopefully I didn't cut you out also, Danny. I just made a slight adjustment, but I don't know if it's going to cut you out.
I hear no echo on my end. Can you hear? And
you're coming in just fine.
Cool.
Okay, maybe the adjustment worked. Hopefully it did. Okay, no echo now. Okay, yeah, I figured out what it was. All right, so next time I won't keep that sound on. But they get back to what I was saying. Yeah, this is what I'm finding with traditional martial arts. And when you find the more conservative-minded people who are like, look, this is the way it has been done. These were the training techniques that we use. These are the moves that work. This is the way you do it this way and only this way. And then after you learn this form, you learn this form. Yeah, if they're interested in just simply holding on to the tradition, I mean, yeah, there's that level of it and there's that appreciation of it. But that's definitely going to, rub, the ones who are all about being effective and keeping up with things, that's going to rub them the wrong way. And in a weird sort of way, it kind of also goes against the spirit of martial arts itself, because many styles came about because of improvement. Because like the straight up fighters, after a while, many of the straight up fighters didn't really care about preserving a style. Like even in China, like they didn't really care too much about, well, I learned this style and therefore that's the style I stick with, and I'll do it the way my master taught. No, like, you find many of the great masters, they learn from one guy, then they move to a different guy who learned a different style, and they learned that style and like, this fills up the holes that I had before. Now I'm going to move on to this guy because he has a technique that I heard is better than mine. Like they were constantly improving. Like hell, Bagua Zhang is a great example of what happens when you build on techniques from the past. It's like you had all these other styles that came before it, and Bagua Zhang was one of the last quote-unquote traditional Chinese martial arts to be made. It was like developed around like the 1800s. And it's a conglomeration of so many techniques and theories and ideas from before. And not only that, but the guy who is credited for developing it would teach it to people who already knew martial arts. And depending on the martial art they studied, ended up being the flavor that they added to it. So for instance, Yin style Bagua Zhang, since the guy Yin Fu, I believe his name was, he originally studied long fist and Shaolin boxing, what they called it. And so he was more of a striker. So he basically made his form of Bagua more about striking and linear movement, even though there's circular movement in it. Whereas the other guy, Cheng, damn it, I forgot his name, but he's the guy to develop Cheng style Bagua Zhang. He was more of a wrestler. So his Bagua has a lot more throws and grapples in it. And they just basically modified it to work the way they like to fight. And to this day, you will find people in Bagua who sometimes mix, like there's people who learn Xingyi, which is a more linear style of fighting. They mix that with their Bagua and vice versa. Like people are always, filling in the gaps that they feel that they have in their fighting technique. So just sticking with one thing and going, well, this is the way it's always been done, and I'm only going to do it this way. If you're trying to hold on to a tradition, fine. But when you're up against somebody whose main focus is fighting, you're probably going to lose unless that tradition you're holding on to is really damn good at what it does. Or if you're really damn good at what you're doing on the fighting element, as well as holding on to the tradition of it. But the funny thing is, if you look at actual Chinese martial arts history, you found famous fighters who just were not afraid to mix things up. Like they picked up a little bit of here, a little bit from there, or they would be a master of one style, and then like, oh, this other style seems kind of interesting. I think I'll jump over here and pick up a little bit. Like I found out like fairly recently that there are a lot of Bagua Zhang masters who have a little bit of Tongbei under their belt, kind of like a secret weapon. It's like, okay, I got my Bagua Zhang stuff, but in case I really need to mix it up close, I'll F them up with some Tongbei, which is a really interesting style, by the way. I really like Tongbei's philosophy. It's very pugilistic, and it's straight up just get in and rapid fire punches using the spine to torque, your blows in. But the torquing of the spine works a lot with the torquing of the body with Bagua as well, so the two just marry just like that. But I'm going off topic. The point that I'm trying to say here is you got this clash between constant innovation and improvement and preserving tradition. And when you're in a sort of, quote-unquote, profession as fighting, as martial arts, the practical side of things is always going to move toward innovation. It's always going to move toward improvement and modifying things and learning new stuff and finding new ways to apply it. And ultimately, I find very few martial artists who say that that's a bad thing. Like, I found many people who are like really mature into Chinese martial arts, basically talking about like how constant innovation is important, constant changing the style is important. Like I've even heard that described for Wudang martial arts. That Wudang is, since Wudang, the Taoist priests believe in things like the Book of Changes, the I Ching. They believe in constant change, which means that they feel that they should be constantly, at least some of them believe that they should be constantly improving their martial art. Of course, then you got the traditional holders, the guys who are like, well, tradition says we do it this way, so that's the way it's done. So you got the whole thing of preserving the art, quote unquote, compared to, just getting things done, just to make it work. And MMA, let's be honest, MMA is all about making things work. It's not really about tradition. It's not about like, okay, it was done this way all the time. So no, it's like, look, what works? Oh, we got some new weapon, some new secret weapon. Let's add that in too. Those guys are always going to get the jump on the person who's going to be stuck in like the old days. And if the stuff you're doing is like several years ahead, or in some cases centuries ahead of what somebody else is going to do, they're going to lose. Especially when that person holding on to centuries of tradition without improving it hasn't even stepped into the ring. And that's the shakeup that I think Chinese martial arts is facing right now. They got to find that balance between holding on to tradition and yet making sure that their art, at least on a practical standpoint, is able to survive for future generations. Holding onto the tradition, they'll always find somebody who's interested in the esoteric side of things. You're always going to find somebody who's interested in it just because of how cool it looks. Or because it's like, it pleases the side of them that wants to be esoteric or eccentric or something. But the more practical-minded person is going to be looking at this going, what does this offer for me? And if you want to attract that crowd, and let's face it, if you're a martial artist, that's part of the crowd you're inviting, you're going to need to innovate. And I think that there are a lot of Chinese martial artists who are interested in innovating the art. Like, again, if this MMA guy is going around challenging the so-called fake masters, then it seems to me that he's probably one of those people who's trying to get the arts to innovate and to weed out those who don't know how to fight. Like, it's obvious, it seems obvious anyway, that his focus is on practical usage and practical application, and not just on esoteric stuff that doesn't mean anything once it comes down to throwing your hands out, And those are the people that he's probably going to be, I think he's going to be in line with them, even though he might be offending some of them as well, because if traditional martial artists who know how to fight, unless he's saying the right things to them, they're probably going to get pissed off, and sooner or later they're going to go, they're going to have his number. But like, at least shaking up the people who don't know how to fight, I think that's a good thing in the long run, at least if you care about Chinese martial arts being seen as something that's viable. Though I think, before I kind of lend the floor to hear your opinion, I think it may also help if there is a distinction made between those who are just simply trying to preserve the art, quote unquote, and those who are actually trying to preserve the application. Like those who want to keep pushing it so it's still viable in terms of protecting yourself and, being able to fight with it. If people clearly, I think if somebody's going out there saying that, look, I practice Tai Chi. Oh, so you think your Tai Chi's better than mine? Look, I just practice it to preserve my health. I don't fight with this. If they make that clear delineation, then I think there's less of a chance of them later on being seen on YouTube getting themselves knocked out. Because they're straight up saying, I don't go into the ring. And if they straight up are honest about that, I think that may also help their reputation somewhat. I can see how that backfires, but...
Yeah, honestly, being willing to go, I study it. I ain't in it to learn to kick somebody's ass. I'm just learning it because I want to learn it, or I'm learning it because of my health, or I'm learning it because of family tradition, or whatever. If people are actually willing to say that honestly would cut down on a whole lot of this, I think. The people who go in and will learn something traditional and think, okay, I'm Billy Badass, I can go and fight now and try to puff their chest out. I think they're problem causers that have led to this whole thing, and they always kind of have been. The people who think that they're Billy Badass because they know something, that they're the problem causers that lead to this whole my style is better than your thing, at least to an extent.
Yeah.
And those people irritate the hell out of me. So
Yeah, if you don't, seriously, it doesn't really make any sense to like come out with like, I'm a grandmaster or so and so. If you put a title on yourself like that, you're going to invite challenges, or you're at the very least going to invite some sort of critical looking at you. Like, there's going to be some scrutiny. They're going to be like, okay, if he's calling himself a grandmaster, how good is he? Even if it's just somebody looking at how you move or how you do your form or how you talk, there's going to be some judgment going on. And if you don't measure up, the challenges are going to be coming through. Hell, even if you don't, the challenges are going to be coming through. And you're going to have to be willing to meet them, which is nothing new in Chinese martial arts. We got plenty of stories of, I opened up this school, and the next thing I knew, people started kicking down my door like, oh, so you think you're good, huh? And then the guy was able to make his school famous by throwing them out, gently showing them the door, This happens, it's happened before, it's happening less now, but it still happens. And Chinese martial arts, history is full of this. So it shouldn't be surprising that this is happening now, especially with the amount of gains in people's consciousness that you know, that MMA has taken up. Like it's become worldwide. You know, everybody at least knows what it is and have adapted some form of it. And then they, of course, are comparing it to traditional martial arts, which is kind of funny when you consider that traditional martial arts helped to make up MMA. It's not like it's its own thing, like it was created in a vacuum. It was started from traditional arts, but it just so happens that these traditional arts will continue to be used practically. And it's, you know, it's encouraged people, it's influenced people to take their own traditional arts and find ways to bring it to the 21st century. Again, we're seeing this with Taekwondo. We're starting to see people who, capoeira of all things. Like, that's the last thing I would have expected to be seen, to see being used in the ring. And yet there are people brave enough to bring it in there and get results. You know? And I'm thinking that, this is why I'm saying that this is actually a gift in the sky for Chinese martial arts. Because it's not going to take long for some innovative traditional fighter to take what they know, get it to work in the ring, then go in the ring and win with it. It's going to happen. It's bound to happen if it hasn't happened already. And like the more we see of that, you know, the more people are going to start getting off the back, so to speak, of Chinese martial arts. I honestly do think that it's a good thing overall. And challenges to Chinese martial arts, their viability, this is nothing new. I've talked about it in the last video. It's happened before. I think it's going to happen again. It's definitely happening now, but there'll always be some rise to the challenge, I think. Because a lot of people care about this stuff, me included. I don't want to see Chinese martial arts being, you know, considered weak and stupid, because I practice this stuff. Not as much as I did before, but I still do. And actually, I am hoping to be able to increase that training later on. I actually found a place that teaches exactly what I was training in, so if the tuition's good, my skills might be sharpened again. But I don't want to jump. I'm not spoiling it. I don't want to jump the gun yet. I don't know for certain. But the point is, it's like, I don't like seeing this stuff disparaged. Hell, when I come over here and I say that, yeah, a lot of Chinese guys don't know how to fight, I don't say it in a braggadocious way. I don't say it, you know, trying to get chuckles. I'm just saying it matter of fact because I know it's true, and that bothers me. Especially since I was trained under guys who, okay, a couple of them were unhinged, but they at least knew how to throw down. You know, like they were like, I sometimes left sessions with bruises. You know, like that's what I thought it was supposed to be. So
to be fair, to be real good in a fight, you need a certain level of unhinged, because you're going in and pseudo willingly letting somebody try to rattle your brain around inside your skull. You got to have just even if it's only a teeny bit, you got to have at least a teeny little bit of unhinged up in your head to be willing to risk getting your brain rattled around. But, yeah. And that's not bad. There's nothing wrong with a little bit of unhinged. A little bit of unhinged is what creates wonderful things. I mean, good Lord, look at some artists. They create wonderful, beautiful things, and they are genuinely disturbing people to be around at times. Ain't nothing wrong with being a little bit unhinged.
Yeah, there's a touch of madness and genius. There always is. Sometimes a little bit more than a touch. You know? I'm sorry, guys, if my son is making a lot of noise in the background. I told him to chill, and apparently he has completely forgotten, so hopefully you're not hearing him too much. So yeah, I think I've said all I can say in the topic pretty much. Like, I tried to, you know, I try not to go too much into speculation, but I know I don't know. I honestly do think that sooner or later we're going to be seeing some more guys like going in there. Like, I'm surprised that there aren't some Baji practitioners not jumping in already. Like, with the explosive power they're known for, sooner or later one of those guys has got to show up, at least in Japan. Because I know Baji Chuan is very respected in Japan, just like, you know, other arts. So, like, you know, you got MMA going on in Japan. You got, you know, high contact sports karate in Japan. And there is a certain respect for certain kung fu styles in Japan. So I'm like, sooner or later, there's got to be somebody who knows that style who's going to step in the ring and show us what it can do, you know? Like, you know, forget the Shaolin stuff, you know, or forget, like, you know, the fancy high-flying stuff that people expect. Now, I want to see some of the stuff that has a history, has a reputation for just being no-nonsense and brutal. I want to see that stuff in the ring and see how well that goes. Like, hopefully I'll get lucky. Like, I don't want to, like, maybe, like, I would like to see that happen within the next 3 to 5 years. I don't know if it will, but I would love to see that happen. You know? I guess that's it. Yeah, I can't really think of anything else to add to the topic, so unless you got something to end this off with.
Well, honestly, these guys coming in and shaking things up, like you said, it may be a shot in the arm that's needed. I mean, to an extent, having that little kick in the ass is what spurs that development. Yep, if the development happens, that's good. I mean, nobody's going in and destroying the freaking ancient scrolls or whatever the hell that have all this good centuries-old knowledge in it. No one is saying that stuff is going to go by the wayside. Innovation doesn't kill what came before, and being afraid of innovation is, I mean, yeah, definitely practice the traditional, but recognize that if you want it to be effective, you'll have to innovate.
Yeah.
And there is not a damn thing wrong with innovation. No one is saying that the traditional has to go away. You can have your cake and eat it too. This is one of those rare occasions where you can.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, I think this is also, to go slightly political, this is also the very problem that we're finding right now with conservatism versus progressivism. That whole thing of holding on to tradition versus improving things. You're going to have to find that balance between the two. It's not about wiping out one side or the other. It's about having that balance between the two. There is merit in both things. There's merit in holding on to tradition, just like there is also merit in improving the way you do things to make it better for yourself and future generations. The question is finding that balance and not necessarily having hostility towards one another. And to be fair, the last thing I'm going to say before I open up the floor to questions is there is merit to holding on to some form of tradition, because let's be honest, before, we started using long-range weaponry and different ways of, ending each other's lives and shuffling ourselves off this mortal coil, these arts were used to, pretty much kill other people and keep from being killed. There's thousands of years worth of experience here.
And to an extent, stuff becomes a tradition because it worked at one time. These things got made into traditions because, like you said, they were used to kill people or keep from getting killed.
Yeah.
Stuff becomes a tradition because it worked.
Yeah.
I mean, stuff, the front, like the push kick, the front push kick became a thing because it worked. It opens up space. A high kick to the head works because if you catch somebody in the head with your foot at high speed, it's an off button. They go down and you don't.
Yeah.
I mean, things have developed since then, but those things, they weren't the MMA of their time, but then again, maybe they were. You had these other people who'd been doing something even older to look at this, like, who's this young upstart asshole and why is he doing this? But they developed. They worked.
Yeah.
There's a reason there's a reason we know any of this. We don't know 99% of what happened back then because records get lost or burned or destroyed or whatever. This knowledge survived, and it didn't survive for, shits and grins. It survived for a reason.
Yeah. And I mean, there's reasons why they ended up being in the position that they're in right now, which I've talked about in past videos. So if people want me to go further into that, I will in another video. But yeah, if you look at a lot of the old treatises on manuals and old essays on these martial arts, there's a lot of practical stuff in there. Stuff that we still hold true to this day. So we shouldn't spit on the tradition because, again, a lot of people lived and died by this stuff. But at the same time, those people who lived and died by it believed in improvement. So in the spirit of those people, we should be willing to continue to improve the arts that we decide that we're going to be focusing on.
Yeah, honestly, not being willing to improve is almost spitting in the face of the people that developed it in the first place because they were innovators of their time.
Exactly.
Saying, no, it must be done this way. It must be done this way. If we could put a belt drive around those people spinning in their graves, it would solve the energy crisis.
Pretty much. I mean, hell, Shaolin's staff didn't become the legend it is today if it wasn't for the fact that somebody walked in there and went, oh my god, this is how you guys are using it? Come train with me for a little while. And yes, that happened. Some general walked in one day and Shaolin was like, this is how you guys are fighting? Seriously? So, alright. Let me go remind a little one that he's making too much noise, and then we'll open up the floor to questions for like the next 10, 15 minutes. Right? So hold on.
Works for me. I'll be back as well.
Okay. So. All right. So that was a little bit shorter. While I wait for some questions to come through, I am going to pop out. You know what? Maybe I'll make this a regular thing on the stream. What am I eating, and how easily can it be made? I still can't do the whole cooking on a budget thing yet. Again, kitchen's too small, but I really do want to bring that back. What I got here, and I hope I'm not mispronouncing it, is Panayang curry. I really like curries. I make a lot of them. Green curry, red curry, yellow curries. This one's Panayang curry. I'll be honest, I made this out of a paste that was already pre-made, but it's really good stuff, and it goes very well with beef. If you're able to get your hands on a pack of this stuff, my suggestion to you is, I mean, yeah, you can try to follow the instructions exactly, and they won't come out bad. But my suggestion to you is, when you like put your oil, whether it's your sesame seed oil, whatever, you know, whether you're being traditional or not, put your oil in there about a tablespoon, and then put in your curry paste and mix that up real good until you get that smell going throughout the kitchen and throughout the house. It takes about, like I say, a minute or so. Then throw in your meat. Usually they tell you to put the coconut milk or whatever broth or whatever you're putting in there. No, throw the meat in first. Let that sear a little bit. Let that flavor get in, and let that meat flavor mix the curry flavor. Then put in your coconut milk. And put in half of it. Put in half of it. Let it thicken up with that flavor and the juice and stuff like that. And let it simmer for a little bit. When you start seeing the bubbles come up, then you add the second amount of, like, okay, you're going to put in like half a cup of coconut milk the first time. And then you either put in a second half cup, or, well, actually, no, what am I saying? No, it's because it's 2 cups of coconut milk. I'm losing my mind. You put in 1 cup of coconut milk that first time after you kind of sear the meat with the paste a bit. And then after you see it begin to simmer, you put in the second cup of coconut milk. Or if you don't want it that thick, you put in half a cup of coconut milk and half water. And let that boil. When it boils, then you're going to let that simmer. Let that simmer real good. Now, if you're doing it with beef, like I did, you might want to let it simmer for a bit, because beef can get pretty chewy if you cook it wrong, or if you cook it too short. So I tend to like letting it kind of sit in there for a little while to kind of soften up the meat. But, you know, you just let it simmer for a little bit, add in like about a tablespoon of brown sugar, and say about like another tablespoon or so of fish sauce, and you're good to go. It is so freaking good. Pours right over, you know, jasmine rice, or salad on the side. Fantastic stuff. It's hot as hell, though. I do have to warn you. This stuff
I just
is pretty
finished
hot.
dinner. You're killing me.
It's
You're freaking killing me here. God. When did this turn into a mukbang video?
But yeah, this stuff is really good. It's very flavorful, but it is very hot. So if you're sensitive to hot food, I suggest either cutting the paste in half or going with a different curry, like maybe green curry. Those, some people make green curry really hot, so just use half the amount of paste. But anyway, that's enough of that. Let me go into the questions. So is there any documentation on how the Chinese use spears with shields? There's some, but there's very little. It's really surprising. Patrick Gray's already doing a good job, I think, of answering the question in the chat. You know, basically there is a version of the short spear, and it looks like a buckler that has 2, you know, hooks. The Chinese actually have had like different shields. Like I know the round shield with either the dao or like either a bigger dao or like the short butterfly knife dao. I know we've seen, like, a few of us have seen those, but there were other shields. Like, I've actually seen a shield that looks like a badge, if that makes any sense. Okay, you know what? Hold on. Time for my rudimentary drawing skills. I've seen shields that looked sort of like this. You guys see that? Never mind the crude look of the drawing. They look kind of like that, and I've seen those in use as well with different short weapons. And I think with spears as well, but again, I don't know why this is, but there seems to be like very little documentation on this, which is very surprising considering, you know, that, you know, this is wartime stuff. This is part of martial arts. I mean, we see all this stuff on sword usage, spear usage, saber usage, you know, like weird freaking weapons like rakes and weird, like, you know, foot-long rods with hands at the end of them. Like, we see all this type of weird stuff, but then just practical stuff like a shield and a long weapon? Crickets. Like, the only explanation I think that makes any sense as to why this is how strictly regimented military arts versus what they gave to the civilians is. Like, throughout Chinese history, I just keep seeing this constant, okay, you guys are not allowed to have this part of the military. You guys are not allowed to have these weapons. At one point, you guys are not allowed to have metal to make weapons. Like, there's always this thing of, like, this is for the soldiers, and I better not freaking see you walking around with them. So the civilians, it's like you see like a civilian class of weapons, and then you have the military class of weapons. And usually the civilian class of stuff either is very basic stuff, or it's like only half of something. So yeah, the guy may have a spear as a civilian, but he won't have the shield. Or a lot of times in civilian martial arts, if you notice a lot of them, you got all these weapons and no armor. Which, that should get people scratching their heads. Like, there's tons of civilian stuff with the usage of all these crazy weapons, and there's hardly a class on using armor in any of these traditional martial arts classes. The military, oh sure, we got examples of Chinese armor all over the freaking place. But as far as the average civilian using armor, nothing. So I'm thinking that could be the reason why we don't see as much documentation on shield and sword, or shield and spear, or shield and, you know, halberd, or whatever other weapons they use with it. Even though if you look at past records, or you look at old art, or, you know, descriptions, you will see these things being used on the battlefield. So yeah, that's the only thing I can chalk up to why that is. It's really, really weird. Okay, did I ever hear say something about a Dian with a basket hilt? No. I don't think I ever said anything like that, but I do remember saying that I've seen a Dian with a Dao hilt. I have seen that. I've also seen both Dian and Dao with an S-guard shaped hilt. It's not a basket hilt, but it's that weird S-shaped guard that I've sometimes seen in Western weapons, you know, kind of like that. And there's reason for me to believe that they may have gotten that from the West. Like, there are examples of people who have, like, hell, the so-called Tai Chi saber is actually a modification of a Western saber that Chen Manqing just happened to really like. You know, talk about innovation. You know, he took a Western sword and he happened to really like it, and then he made it part of Tai Chi. These things happen. There's a lot of cross-pollination with Chinese martial arts and other military stuff. Like, again, the usage of the Dao. I talked about before how School Gladiatoria talked about the Persian saber techniques that he saw, was, you know, reading about in that book of his, and he's demonstrating some of the techniques, and I'm looking at that going, that's Chinese Dao fighting. The whole wrap around the head, that's what they do. And when you consider that, yeah, the Chinese did, you know, interact with, you know, the Persians, and, you know, they interact with Mongols and Huns and all that, and they had saber weaponry. And it's interesting to note that at first the Chinese, they were using straight swords, then they bumped into these guys with the sabers, and they're like, those sabers kind of hurt. They're cool. We need them too. So then they got them, and then they borrowed the techniques and made it their own. Like, this happens all the time. There's still the whole debate about who came up with two-handed saber use first, the Chinese or the Japanese. And, I mean, while I don't know if we're ever going to get a clear answer on that, the one thing that's definitely true is that the two countries continue to trade techniques back and forth. So, and as well as weapon designs back and forth. So, there's always going to be this cross-pollination, you know, both with the usage of the weapons as well as the look of the weapons. So, let's see.
An interesting question from Indigo XYZ18. If you've seen any Marcus Aurelio fights, and there's a highlight video, and what you think about capoeira and MMA. And I'm kind of curious what you think about it as well, because it doesn't seem practical up until you see someone actually use it and have it work.
Marcus Aurelio, I don't think I've seen him fight. Watch me find out later on I have. But I'm going to say right now, because I don't recognize the name, that I haven't, but I will look into him. As far as capoeira in fights, I look at capoeira kicks the same way I look at the rolling thunder in karate. If you know what you're doing, you can pull it off. The rolling thunder is a really interesting, weird sort of like tumbling spin kick. I'm assuming you guys in the audience know what the rolling thunder is. It's sort of like they kind of throw themselves like almost as if they're going to do a roll on the ground, but then they extend their outward kicking leg out to catch you like either like in the top part of your head or the side of your head. You tend to end up either on your back or on your butt when you land a kick. Like you kind of throwing yourself in the air and kind of like tumbling to the ground that you're throwing it. That's a very difficult kick to pull off in a real fight. But there's a couple of people who can do it. Recently, I am so bad with names. There's this one young Japanese fighter right now. His traditional background is in karate, and he's just amazing to watch. Like, damn good fight sense. And he pulled off the rolling thunder in the middle of a fight. Just out of just popped the dude. Perfect timing. Just caught the dude lovely with it. And that's not a kick that you expect to see in any real fight. But he did it. And made it work. I feel capoeira is the same way. Especially with the more acrobatic kicks. If you got the timing and you know how to read the other guy's rhythm and you can pull that kick off like you're breathing, it'll probably work. That said, it's going to take a lot of work to make that technique work. That's why they're advanced techniques. You know, that they're not basic. There's basic techniques. Anybody can throw it off after some training. The advanced stuff, well, that's the stuff that's going to take you a while to make it work right. I will say this. When we're talking about capoeira, we have to be careful whether we're talking about the flamboyant stuff and the more traditional stuff. Because the more traditional stuff tends to be a lot closer to the ground. You see a lot more low kicks and a lot less jumping around and flips and circular crazy motions in that one. It's more like a lot of low to the ground spin kicks and trips and like sort of throws. Like a lot of stuff that just is meant to hit you at low level stuff. Like it's meant to take your legs out from under you or to kick you in the pit of your stomach. Stuff like that. It's very low level. Like, now I don't mean low level as in crappy or basic. I mean low level as in closer to the ground. Not all these high acrobatic kicks that everybody expects to see in capoeira. It's, you know, I think those, if they're at least allowed in the ring, have more of a chance of being used a lot more often than a lot of the aerial stuff. But, of course, a fighter's probably want to focus on the aerial stuff because if he can land that in the middle of a fight, your reputation just shot way up. So, I mean, I guess I'm just giving the same answer I would give to anybody about what about X technique, which happens to be really hard to pull off. Practically, it's not, you know, you probably don't want to pull it off too much, but if you got the timing for it, you can make it really work and you can, like, throw the other guy off, like, you know how to control your mobility and control the battlefield, so to speak. Yeah, you could probably pull it off. Just, you know, the capoeira kicks, maybe. It's going to take a lot of work, but it's possible. It's like that, way back, that one video I did on that spinning move where you kind of parry, spin off to the side, and you stab underneath your arm to catch a guy in the side as you spin away from their attack. That takes an incredible amount of timing to do. Like, you can't just whip that out. You can't just pop that out your ass. You got to be able to, like, you got to pretty much control the fight in order to make that move work. Can you make it work? Well, yeah, somebody developed the move and made it work, but it's going to take some work to do it. You know, and you got to have the right temperament, and you just got to have the right stuff to pull it off. Demo Man is asking about what do I know about the odd gunpowder weapons from China. I honestly don't know that much about them. And I'm ashamed to say that. I just know very basic stuff that probably everybody else knows about them. I just know that they were used. They were used a lot more often than some people think, especially during certain time periods. And they usually were used in conjunction with melee weapons. But as far as exactly what those weapons were, when they started using them, like what particular time period they started using them and so on and so forth, I don't know that much. I do know, I mean, you know, besides the basic stuff that we know about them, like I don't know I don't know the exact weapons and I don't know like how often they were used in the time periods, but I should be focusing on that a lot more so I could talk about that at some point. But since my focus is so much more on the melee stuff, that's why I don't know too much about them. Okay. Did I? Oh yeah. Patrick Gray. I forgot to touch on this when you were asking me about the interview of the Chinese boxer who also fought the Wing Chun guy. I did not. Um, I take it there's something really significant about that interview. Like, did he say anything about that guy's level of skill or anything that might make this a lot more interesting? Like, let me know in the chat so I could probably like say it in the video. So make his face look a fish out of water. It's not so much about his offense, but his mobility. Well, yeah, mobility is footwork. To touch on what Indigo was saying about how that you know the karate guy was making the other dude look like a fish out of water, like he just makes his opponents look stupid. Yeah, if your footwork is tight, you pretty much already in there. You almost got the fight won. Almost. You still need to know how to throw down, but a lot of people don't seem to realize that footwork is what wins fights so much of the time. It doesn't really matter whether you're boxing, whether you're, you know, doing kick fighting, you know, weapons use. Your footwork is what's going to save your ass 9 times out of 10. You may be really fast with your hands. You may be able to be doing all this other crazy stuff, but if you're flat-footed, if you can't move out the way of stuff, if you can't make the proper step to make your hand movements work, you're going to get screwed over completely. Your footwork is what saves you 9 times out of 10. Like, go back and watch some of the stuff where I talk about, like, why the Chinese guys use the stances they do, the why they do that series. The where your feet are placed, how you move forward and back, what stance you happen to step into, that is so freaking important. If you can't do that stuff and you want to be a fighter, go back until you can. You just cannot fight without proper footwork. And the better your footwork is, the better a fighter you're going to be. There's no other way around it, really. So, it seems that's it. Well, you know, it is a Sunday and it was a really nice day. So I'm kind of really surprised that I even got 12 people to watch in the first place. I think I'm going to end it off right here. It's a little over an hour. I think we, you know, hopefully I made, you know, a video that you guys enjoyed. You know, a live stream that you guys enjoyed. I really do want to do this every month. Like, at least, you know, at least one every month. Because I promised, you know, and I got to find a way to keep that going. And I do like doing them. It's fun interacting with you guys, and you guys tend to have some really good comments. And this month, you guys put some really interesting stuff in there that I didn't even know. So I got some looking up to do. I need to look at this new fighter up. I need to look up. Oh, here's Patrick Gray. The section where he discussed how he likes the way the Chinese martial arts is being taught in the other countries, namely in Europe, and how they are learning and teaching the art practically. Well, I can only speak from my own experience, but that seems to be true. I'm noticing more and more a focus on Chinese martial arts being taught in a way so that the person can at least be confident that they can defend themselves. I mean, you're still going to have the McDojo type places, but I'm finding more and more an emphasis on, no, damn it, this really is a martial art, and this is how you use it. You know, or this is how you can save yourself with it. Even right down to the weapon arts, which is something that you haven't seen in a long time. Like, people who have been trying to pioneer this way back in the 80s are finally seeing the results of their labor now. Like, I remember when Adam Hsu, way back in, like, the late 80s, early 90s, he was trying to pioneer, like, tournaments with weapons. Like, even if though they were foam-padded weapons, at least it's something. You know, like, for a while, it was like he was the only guy doing it. And now, more and more, I'm seeing more people incorporating that. And new pioneers, like Scott Rodell. You know, I think he might go down as one of the patron saints of Chinese weapon arts, because the guy is just working tirelessly to get Chinese sword arts to be recognized as something that can be used practically. Like, he started his own tournament. You know, he keeps putting those videos out. Like, the book, like, the guy is just working really hard to get people to understand that, nah, this stuff can be used. Jason Tu, also one of Adam Hsu's contemporaries, he had put a book out on Genshu, the sport version of it, and he was helping to open up that league. They were doing their thing. I'm seeing more schools now, including one that's out here near where I live. They are actually now incorporating weapon sparring into their curriculum. So I'm seeing more and more, at least in the West, this push to make these arts practical. Like, at least be able to use the freaking things. Even if it's just in a sport aspect. Just be able to use the freaking things, you know? And the more of that we see, which again goes back to what I said before about there's more people concerned about how their art is being, you know, perceived. The more people that care, the more we're going to see things like this. And the better it's going to be for the art, you know? All right, so he said, referring to Marcus's capoeira footwork, the dude was flying. Cool. I will definitely check that out. Thank you very much, Indigo. Um, Someone asked, is a cat stance in an unarmed form a kick? Basically, yes. I talked about that before in a video before, where basically whenever you see that in a form, it's basically telling you that you can kick. Now, the one misconception I got a lot, and I got so many people commenting on it that I had to make another video fully explaining it. It does not mean you go into the cat stance and then kick. No, it's saying that at the moment you do the cat stance, you could have also have kicked. That's what it's telling you. It's either, many times when you see the cat stance being done, you're moving backwards. So it's telling you that you can kind of retreat half a step to get out the way of something or to prep up a defense and then move forward again. But other times it's telling you that that instant that you went into the cat stance, instead of doing a cat stance, you could have done a kick. That's why there's no weight in the front leg. Now, that's the most basic description of that stance. There are other things that you could be doing, like the Chinese martial arts things. You shouldn't always take things as a straight up black and white definition. You shouldn't be like, oh, this means this and that's it. There's always room for some form of interpretation, and there's always a way to like reinterpret how it's done, which is how many different styles got created. But in general, this is sort of like the I before E except after C rule, except that rule is completely wrong, but never mind. It's sort of like that. Like, it's generally speaking, when you see this, it means you can do this. And in terms of the cat stance, it usually means, you can kick here. And it means you pop off the kick right then and there. You do not go, kick. No, it's kick. Or if you need to retreat, retreat. But you don't do one first, then the other. That's just, you're just telegraphing the move then. And if you're telegraphing moves, you lose. Okay. Thank you for the link, Indigo. I am looking that up as soon as I cut this stream off.
Oh, it is so worth it. I'm watching it right now, especially about 120 in the video. Oh, wow.
The interview?
Yeah.
Oh, and also Patrick. Patrick Gray, jeez, man, you are just, throwing, like, this is like more than your weight in gold here, some of the stuff you're putting in. The interview questions that if they're still authentically Chinese martial arts when they're modifying it to be practical, and the boxer said that he thinks it is because it still has its foundation. I agree, to be perfectly honest. But this goes right into what I was saying before. The interview's asking, well, is it still authentic if they're modifying it? Which is exactly what the traditionalist might be thinking. If you're not doing it the exact way, it's not the art. And the more practical-minded person is like, the base is, the foundation's the same. I'm just making sure that this works for what they're doing now. You're going to have that back and forth, and I'm thinking that in terms of usage, you're going to have to innovate. Now, as long as you're not changing the structure, yeah, it's still the same damn art. Because this is like, okay, let's take again Bagua for an example. I keep picking on Bagua because I like Bagua. The structure of that is circular movement. Circular movement and attacking and defending at angles that you normally would not attack from. Most people, they attack forward, back, side, side. They attack in a cross formation. Bagua Zhang attacks at the obliques. So they attack and move in an X formation, if that makes any sense to you guys. Like, instead of me coming, all right, it's time to fight, and I'm moving in this way, and I'm backing up this way. Oh, you're making a move, I move side. Bagua Zhang, okay, I'm going to come in this way and hit you here. See what I mean? Or you coming at me, I'm forced to retreat. I'm not going to retreat back. I'm going to retreat this way and let you slip past so then I can house you this way. You're moving in the obliques. Now, as long as you're doing that and you're moving in circular motions, and by circular, it doesn't always mean that you have to walk in a circle. Generally, your movements are circular, and the way you generate power has a twist or a circular motion to it, and you're working with the general principles of palm usage, and you're basically working with the 8 basic movements in palms. As long as you're doing that, you're practicing Bagua Zhang. Those are its general principles. Now, whether or not you're able to use it to palm strike to do it in the traditional way, or whether you use it to then grab the guy in a headlock and bring him to the ground and choke him out, you're still using Bagua Zhang. The principles are still there. And in fact, Bagua is a perfect example of how it's the same basic function, because depending on what style of Bagua you're studying, you're either a striker or a wrestler, or something in between. because that's exactly what happened with the style. He Dong Hai Chuan, Dong Hai. Someone's gonna correct me, and in advance, thank you for correcting me. But he taught it to different martial artists who had different skills, and you had different styles of it, and yet it's all called Baguazhang. So I agree with what that guy is saying. You got it. And even Demo Man said it himself. Modifying the art to fit your needs is exactly what the original intention was anyways. You take the master's art and you make it your own. And by the way, that's what makes it art. When you're first learning a skill, you're learning the basics and you're just like a beginner. You master the basics, then you go to the advanced techniques. You master the advanced techniques, the intermediate techniques, and then the advanced techniques. You consider something of an expert, but you're not an artist yet. Once you put your personal stamp on it to the point where people are like, oh, that's their thing, now it's an art. This is, by the way, one of the reasons why I hate the way the word art is being used. Like it's some light fluff thing that anybody can do. No, you're not an artist unless you're skilled. You have to be thoroughly skilled and be able to put your own personal stamp on it. Then you're an artist. And that goes for martial arts as well. So,
yeah, there is a difference between being a jackass with a pencil and an artist.
Exactly.
You can be a jackass with a sword, or you can be a swordsman. There's a big old gulf of difference.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly with that. And the more people understand that, the better. But English language I know English language tends to degrade the meanings of words over time, so...
Man, the English language isn't a language. It's something that knocks other languages over the head with a sock full of wood screws and rifles through their pockets for spare syntax.
Pretty much, yeah.
It's three languages standing on top of one another in a trench coat.
Thank you, Patrick Gray, for the interview link. I've already copied it, and I've got it on a side window for me to check out in a moment. You guys are giving me such good stuff. Thank you very much, guys. When I say I appreciate you, I'm not just giving lip service. I really am not. Psionic Blade asks, am I doing more tutorials in sword usage? Okay, first off, I try not to do tutorials. I know that, yeah, there's some things you can grab from my videos, but I really don't think that I'm qualified to teach anything. I've had people tell me differently. I've had people tell me that you need to stop knocking yourself down. But my stuff is so disparate, and I've learned little bits here and there from different people, and like while I did have formal instruction for a time, I haven't been in a class setting in God knows how long, and a lot of what I've been doing is just stuff me building on what I've already known. So I don't feel comfortable then going, I'm going to teach you how to do this. To me, that's being a charlatan. I don't want to, like, I don't want to, you know, I don't want to mislead anybody. I don't want to give out any misinformation, and there could be some things that I'm doing that are dead wrong. So I'm very hesitant about saying that the videos I do are tutorials. It's more like me trying to give an example of something, and like, you know, in case, if other people who know what they're doing are like, okay, yeah, that's good, then I'm like, okay, I'm on the right track. But I don't really mean for them to be straight up tutorials. I mean, if you're learning something from them, great, but keep in mind that at the end of the day, I'm really sketchy. I really feel like I don't know if I can call these tutorials. It's like just to sum it up, I don't think I'm good enough to call these things tutorials. I really don't. Like, I really think I suck compared to a lot of other people out there who really know what they're doing. But that being said, all that out the way, I do want to do more form drill type videos. Like, there's some more why they do that videos that I really need to do. Like, they're on a list. Like, you know, to further things I need to explain about how to dissect forms. I need to do more of those because they really would make you guys go, or that's relevant, you know, like stuff that like, that's why they do that. I got a couple of more that need to be put out to kind of complete the set that I was putting out. There's a couple of other basic stuff that I wanted to do that I kind of need more room. But now that I sort of have somebody you know, that has a martial arts background and she's willing to do some stuff with me, I'm hoping to at least have some smaller, quick drill type videos in this room. Hopefully. We need to find the time. But if because the thing is, I work when she's here, and then she works when I'm. Things are not intersecting right. But when I get things working right, I want to do a couple more drill type ones and some basic, like, this is how this move is done. Or why the hell would they go on this dance? Well, it's because of this. I want to do more of those because, for one thing, you guys seem to really like those. And for another thing, I then get some interesting comments from people who actually know what the hell they're doing. And I either get a, oh, you've done that really well, or a, well, you might want to consider this, or, well, actually it was done that way. And it's only increasing my own knowledge on the subject, which is one of the main reasons why I put out these videos in the first place. It's like, I consider this like a internet roundtable with other people, you know, and hopefully I get, you know, some good information out of them. So that's basically what I consider it as. So yeah, to take that long rambling answer out the way, yes, I plan on doing more of those. It's just me getting the time in the right area to do them in. All right, so somebody just said missed the entire live chat by about 3 seconds. Actually, the chat's still going on. I'm still here. Oh, I see what happened. This was the quick, oops. All right, I can't see the whole question because I tried to click on it and it's not showing me the whole thing. I'm sorry, but somebody tried to, I did a test stream real quick and I only did it for like 4 seconds, but apparently that 4 seconds went up. Sorry. If I see the question later on, I might just answer it in the comment section, but I can't. I thought I was going to be able to do it here, but I can't see it now. So, yeah, I think that's about it. You guys, thanks again for the questions. Thanks for showing up. You know, Sunday afternoons. Let me know if Sunday afternoons are working for you guys. I pick Sundays because, one, I can't do Saturdays. I know that sounds crazy and stupid, but I work Saturdays. Sorry. So I figure, you know, Sundays, people are chilling, you know, maybe they got not much else going on, you know, in the evening, on a Sunday evening, you know, you got time to kill, that would be a perfect time for me to pop up. But let me know if that works for you. If you guys are finding that that doesn't work at all, I can switch it to like a Monday or a Tuesday. I cannot guarantee a Saturday, because again, I work Saturdays. That might change next month. I cannot guarantee it. But it might. If I'm able to get Saturdays free, then I might switch it to Saturdays if you guys would prefer me doing these videos on Saturday. Also, another thing I want to add, again with these videos, I originally intended these live streams so that certain people at a certain Patreon level can jump in on the call with me. And that fell apart because every time I sent the invites out, people wouldn't show up. I'm once again offering the, before I just completely kill that aspect, I am offering the chance for anybody who's interested, who's at that level, if you want to be in on the call, please let me know so I could try to set it up so that you guys can actually be in on the call. I don't mind you guys being in on the call, especially if you guys really want to add to the conversation. If you got something that really adds to the conversation. I got no problem with that roundtable thing. If you have a problem with that or you don't want to be part of it, but you still want to find a way to make that level work, another thing I was thinking about was either a gaming sort of thing, which is what I've always wanted to do anyway. I've always wanted to have like, okay, we're doing a gaming night this month, and all you guys are at this level, we jump in and we play like Dark Souls or Tekken 7 or something like that. And maybe even make it a live stream. Like, if you guys want to do that, we can do that too. Or something else, or maybe just a Discord room, though I'm a little hesitant about the Discord room simply because I'm not always able to monitor what's going on Discord. I'm already part of other rooms, and I'm not in there all the time. So trying to monitor my own in case things get out of hand, I don't really think I'd be a good moderator, and I need to find some people who would moderate well, and I don't really know anyone. It's a mess. That's why I have not done the whole Discord thing yet like everybody else has. If I can find a better way to implement that, maybe I will. But yeah, you know, generally with these live streams, anybody at that particular level, I'm once again offering my hand out. Look, if you guys want to be in all these calls, you're paying for it. Please let me know so I can let you in the next month. If you guys just feel like it's just too much work, you don't really want to do it, then I'll figure out something else. And let me know what that something else is. Again, the gaming thing, which I've always wanted to do anyway, we could do that. Or if I have, you know, if that's what people really, really want, then maybe I'll do the Discord thing instead, or some other idea. But just, you know, something to either replace it or be an equivalent of that, or just doing that instead, the whole, you know, being part of the live stream thing. Either, any of those I'd be, you know, willing to work with. Just let me know what you guys want, and I'll try to make that work. So, yeah, I think that's it. I said it was it a while ago, and yet I'm still here. But yeah, this is definitely it now. I want to thank Danny for being part of the stream, even though I did most of the talking.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Yeah, I thought it would just be cool to have at least somebody to bounce words off of. Oh, before I forget, someone was asking, Natsu Dengrill. I did not forget. Am I doing another collab with Skull? We want to. We just need to find the time. It's like when I'm on, he's not. When he's on, I'm not. I've missed the last couple of live streams he did because I was just busy with either being at work or some other stuff. And it's really beginning to grind my nerves. But we're trying to make something work. If I can make it, I want to. And hell, there was something that we were supposed to do that got completely screwed. And I'm really, I shouldn't say I'm pissed off because it wasn't really anyone's fault. Someone died. But yeah, there was something really special I was planning on doing this year, and I don't think it's going to work now. But yeah, I really would like to do another collab with him, and I'm sure he wants to do the same, but we just our schedules just are not matching the way we'd like. And again, hopefully next month that might change, but it all depends on my job, so. Okay, yeah, that, so Sundays work, also work Saturdays, that's cool. Again, I just feel Sundays right now seems to work best for me, and I just figure it works best for a lot of people, but again, if you guys would rather another day, just let me know. The more people that let me know, the more I'll know what to do. All right, enough yapping. Thanks again, guys, for showing up. I always appreciate it when you guys show up. I really hope that these live streams are something that you guys enjoy, and as long as you guys enjoy them, I will keep trying to do it every month. So, yeah, just let me know how I'm doing, and I'll try to improve or keep doing what I'm doing and all that. Thanks again, Danny, for showing up. Thanks for everybody else showing up. And as usual, catch you guys later.